what's up, everybody? I got a big box on the back. I'm going downtown to 14th Street. I do these deliveries every couple days for the office. It's for our office. You know, the stuff goes to Manila. And I was thinking about it. Like, question comes up, can you do Uber Eats, DoorDash, all that stuff on a motorcycle in New York? And the answer to that question is probably no, because the problem is the theft, you know. And I see a lot of these guys using gas scooters, but when I ask them about it, they tell me that the office, you know, the Chinese restaurant or whatever, they paid for the scooter. They get like a 50cc or a 150cc or whatever, you know, is going to work for them at the time. If they do far deliveries, they'll get a 150. If they do local stuff, it'll be a 50. But the question comes up, you know, it's not really police enforcement. You won't really have problems with that. But the occasional, you might. And then if you do, the bike's going to get taken. Yeah, so, like, if you do get stopped by a cop and you don't have a plate on the bike, it's going to get taken. Or if it's sitting in the street with no plate. I've had them, like, I've caught the camera, my blink camera went off one night, and there was, like, I almost had a heart attack. There was, like, 3 cops huddled around my bike, and they were moving it and setting the alarm off and everything, and just looking at everything on it. And they were looking at all, like, the VIN number, the plate, running everything, going back to the car. They had like a unmarked SUV, and they were just sitting there, you know, manhandling my bike, and it was getting me nervous. But I mean, there was nothing I could do. I didn't want to run down and confront them, so I just watched them on the camera what they were doing. But that gave me a good idea, like, because I get questions from people, can I do Uber Eats? And, you know, I feel bad for people because they come to New York. You'd think it's a good opportunity. You come here, run Uber Eats, DoorDash, whatever it is you want to do, and, you know, get a Honda Ruckus or whatever would be nice to fit a bag on the back, you know, delivery bag, so you don't have to keep taking shit off on and off from your back. I would recommend that. You definitely need something that's mounted to the bike. That's a must. And then this way you just unzip it, and it's a DoorDash bag. No one's going to steal it. But basically, you know, the issue is when you leave the bike, where are you going to be? Like, if you're doing DoorDash in the city, run around the bike, you need to be living in the city, because it gets cold in the wintertime, and you're not going to be have the stamina to work like 4 hours delivering food and stuff to people, and then get on the bike and drive an hour to a place where you're staying in the suburbs. You're not going to be able to do that. That's too much to ask. But I would say if you got a lucky situation where you're going to be able to park the bike somewhere, definitely you could do Uber Eats and DoorDash. But what I was getting back to about a restaurant, like, they'll buy the bike. Like, I asked a couple of guys, you know, that I saw on 150cc scooters. I said, you know, is that your bike? And they said, no, it's the restaurant. So I guess if you work for one restaurant, but that's not DoorDash, that's someone working for the restaurant. I don't know if they could do deliveries on the side. They'd probably get in trouble for that, because it's not technically their bike, you know. So basically, like, if you were doing DoorDash on your own and you had your own scooter, that's fine. But if you park it at night and you live in, let's say, Queens, that bike is going to be a target. 150cc Marshall 150 is the one I'm seeing a lot of. It seems like a pretty quick scooter. It's a Chinese scooter, but it looks well made. It looks like it can be dropped, and looks like it can just be romped around on. It looks like you could definitely romp around on one of those Marshall 150s. But getting back to what I was saying, like, if you were gonna... Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna get a new mic. I'm gonna get a Purple Panda, because that's really the only thing with the fuzzy thing is that's gonna work for the windy conditions that I drive. But if you were gonna get a 50, even a 50cc, it seems to me like gas bikes definitely are a bigger target. This bike is a serious target. This XR. I mean, you got to guard this thing. Fucking, you got to be committed, man. It's actually a little bit depressing how many times this bike has been attempted theft. It's actually disgusting. I mean, you gotta like be committed. And I don't think it's worth it. And especially not if you're gonna be running around the city doing DoorDash and Uber Eats and having to worry about your bike being thefted. But there's professional thieves, and they know what they're doing. They use minors. They steal a van in Jersey because it takes longer for that information to make it to New York that it's stolen. And they drive around the city and they just steal bikes all freaking night. They have grinders. They're ready to go, man. They got an inverter in the car so they can power a plug-in grinder if they have a really thick chain. They're set, man. They got their shit figured out. They got that shit down to a science, man. And then they're minors, so if they do get arrested, they don't spend any time in jail. And the professional, they're not making much money, I don't think. I don't know if they do it for thrill or whatever. I have no idea, but they don't seem to be making much. They're definitely not rolling in it. They're just taking these bikes, bringing them to whoever it is that's selling them. But the market for it is kind of big in other countries, so I would think if they're smart, they're sending this stuff to Asia. They're parting it out and sending it to Asia, Southeast Asia. They're sending it to South America, because those places, motorcycle gear, parts, engines, all that stuff is going to be worth big money. And anything that don't have a computer, this bike has no computer at all. As long as you can get this fucking thing started, you're good, man. And that's another reason why they steal this. And that's another reason why one of those 50cc's or whatever, Marshall 150, they're all really going to be theft targets. And I would say that's why I say it's not feasible to ride around the city doing Uber Eats and DoorDash. You're not gonna be concentrating on the proper thing, which would be work. But there is good money in it, and if you have a secure place to park the bike, or if you can work out a deal with your landlord and put the bike in a safe place every night, then that is doable. But trying to pull that off, living in, let's say, Queens, in the heart of Brooklyn or Queens, a real urban area, and you're parking your bike at night and you're trying to get some sleep, and you're going to be constantly fucking running, and you can put a super sensitive GPS, but the problem is that you're going to have to wake up, look at it, see if it has a tilt alarm, then you can jump. It's all part of the procedures you're going to have in place. Like if you have something go off on an Invoxia and you know you're not sure what it is, you know, if an Invoxia goes off and you don't know what you're dealing with, then you're gonna have to run out and take a look. So if you get a super sensitive GPS that has tilt alarm and perimeter, every time someone comes near the bike at like say 3 in the morning, you're going to be jumping up, waking up from your sleep. You've got to check it out, make sure, open your phone, unlock it, look and see if it's a tilt alarm. If it's a tilt alarm, you need to jump. And then you're going to have to wear clothes. You're going to have to sleep in clothes because you've got to have shoes ready to run. And that's the ridiculous thing. It's kind of sad, actually. I mean, how many times I've had to run down with people grinding the chain, and 3:30 in the morning, I run down, I come down with my machete, and I've never had any confrontation, but it's just sad, man, that people can't leave shit alone. And there's no garage near my place, so it's kind of a pain for me to be parking in a garage, because if I park in a garage, I'm gonna have to go get the bike, bring it back, and like for example, I'm carrying a 45-pound box. What am I gonna do? Carry that around the corner, or am I gonna leave it in the lobby unsafe while I go get the bike? And then if some Amazon delivery guy, and no offense to them, what if they leave the door open and someone peeks in and grabs my box? There's just too many factors that parking in a garage just doesn't work for me. So I'm going to end up going to get my bike from the garage, bring it in front, lock it up, run upstairs, get the 45-pound box, run downstairs, unlock the bike. It's just, the whole thing is just not worth it. It's just not worth the time or the effort. Parking in front is worth it to me. I have a blink alarm, I have everything. There's no way somebody's going to get this bike as long as I go downstairs. But it's just sad. It's actually a little bit sad for me too. Like, what kind of a life am I living that, I'm running downstairs with a machete to protect my property. This is my asset. I use this bike for work. I can't be without this bike. So it's just like really sad. It's a little bit depressing. I don't even like talking about it. It's actually getting me depressed just talking about it. Because then I'll start questioning, where my life is going, like what am I doing, But for the most part, having a bike is great. It's an awesome way for me to get around the city. Parking is awesome. I need a dual sport because I carry heavy tools. I can't be riding a scooter around. And I also go out of state sometimes. Like yesterday I had to go 100 miles into Jersey, out on Route 80 and then 287. So you're not going to be doing that on a scooter. It's just not safe. You need something that has some kind of commanding presence on the highway, because people in Jersey are fucking nuts. I mean, they'll fucking kill you, man, on a bike. They'll leave you on the side of the road dead and just be like, fuck you, Jersey is some of the most aggressive drivers around. Just heartless, So you need a commanding bike if you're going to be doing what I'm doing. But if you're just running around the city, a scooter would work fine. And if you want to try the Uber Eats, just be aware. I've never done that. That's not the kind of work I'm in. But if you're going to try it, just be very aware of where you're going to park your work bike, because you need it for work. You can't have people fucking stealing that shit. You need it if that's your work plan. You're coming here and you got to pay your rent by doing that. You can't fuck around with people stealing your bike. You're going to be out of work. So you got to protect the asset. You got to have a proper GPS, and you must respond when that says there's a tilt alarm. You've got to go. If it says it's moving, you've got to go down, because you got to have the bike near where you can run out of your apartment. If you're living in a high-rise in Bronx and you're up on 27th floor, that's not going to work. By the time you get downstairs, that bike is already gone. And if you don't get that back within an hour, the most, they're already dug into it to find the GPS. That's a Marshall 150 right there. So that's the deal. I mean, can you do it? Maybe, depending on your setup. But I would have to say from the get-go, no, because I don't want to turn people on to something that come from another state where people don't go around at 3 o'clock in the morning cutting chains. And that might be a new thing even in LA now, because they're going around and they're going into apartment buildings and they sneak in to the parking. You know, in LA, all the apartments have parking underneath, and they're sneaking in and stealing motorcycles in the parking garage. You know, so there's a lot of theft going on in this country now, and I guess people are aware of that. But I just don't want to steer somebody in the wrong direction. Have somebody say, you know, hey man, you know, you told me Uber Eats was doable in New York, and the cops, my first day there, the cops fucking took my bike, you know. So, or somebody stole my bike that night. You didn't tell me people were going around with, with grinders and stolen vans. You know, they have scout bikes they drive. These guys are fucking pros, man. I've seen on camera 2 guys on a scooter and a cell phone. They took a picture of the bike, and then they came back an hour later with the grinder. So, with the van. So these guys are going around scouting on scooters that are stolen. They don't stop at all for police. So if they get caught in the actual scouting act, they're not stopping. They will do anything they can to get away from the cops. And so that's that. And in the van, they'll just ditch the van. They'll drive like a fucking nutball through lights and everything, and then ditch the van, because that's what happened when they try to steal this bike. I got the plate of the van and everything. It's all on my camera. Cops found it. They chased them, but they ditched the van. They drove insanely crazy to the point that we're going to hurt people, you know, and that's not what NYPD is in the business. They're in the business to get criminals, but they're not going to hurt people doing it. So you got to be prepared to avoid theft. So you'd have to analyze your situation, but just to come in to New York fresh, don't know anything about New York, and doing Uber Eats, I think you'd be better off in another city, maybe even LA, because the weather's better, more tempered. You could pull it off there, and the theft is not as aggressive as here. So that type of work would be better in LA. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear. I keep trying to find people that are doing Uber Eats here. I see them every once in a while when the summer comes that are doing Uber Eats and DoorDash in New York on a motorcycle. I see them. I'm so tempted to stop them and ask them how they're doing, but I just don't want to bother anybody. I'd love to hear how it is, just out of curiosity. I'm not planning on doing that, but I want to know. All right, everybody. See you on the next one.